I'm sad to say is the end of the sports section of this podcast. So let's move it over to the social media side of things. And I've got to be frank, it's been a quiet day on the social media side for me. Usually I'm quite invested in social media, despite my protestations and my hearkening about the dangers of social media and think for yourselves and don't be sheep. But considering the weekend of WWE, for instance, has spread the joy of goodwill to the wrestling fans of the world, it seems to have filtered through to the rest of social media. I can't see an awful lot of outrage or anything like that, which is a refreshing change of pace, it has to be said. I like the idea that we can go maybe a couple of days without being recreationally aggrieved by absolutely everything we see. I get the idea that some stage we're just going to open our front door, take the picture of the first thing that we come into contact with, tweet it and say, what is the world coming to now with this bullshit? I will, alluding to a conversation that I had recently, got into the finer discussion of what is art with an individual who will remain nameless. It got me thinking actually about social media and the tricky... The folly of attempting to engage with people sometimes is hard, because even person to person, it's tricky. I'll give you an example. Because I spend 8 hours a day working, as is most people, my interaction is typically with my work colleagues. Not so much with customers. I get some interaction with customers, albeit on a very infrequent basis, and that's through choice. I just personally prefer being able to moderate my day and be able to interact with people at my leisure rather than as a part of my job, so to speak. So I get to have conversations with people, and I have, for the most part, some pretty interesting folks that I converse with on a regular basis. But it's still hard. I see these people day in and day out. I see them for 8 hours a day, sometimes more. I see them more than their loved ones. I see them more than their best friends do. But I still don't know jack shit about most of these people. And it shows when you go down to the lunchroom. Because in the lunchroom, damn, it's hard. It's hard to interact with people, especially for me. As you may have noticed by now, I love me some talking. I do like to talk. I enjoy talking to you. Are you still okay there? You good? You comfy? Can I get you a cup of tea? Maybe you'd like a sponge bath. I like talking. It's my way of trying to connect with people, because I feel like in opening as many doors as I can in conversation that it allows people to jump in and I get to listen. The trouble is that people take that ball and run with it, which is they just let me carry on talking, which is hard. Whenever I listen to these podcasts back, I like the idea of someone being able to jump in and just take the ball and run with it themselves. Just to touch on it again, Defunct Games, my podcast with him, my big regret with there is that I didn't ask him enough questions. I really wish I'd have just shut up and let him talk a little bit more. GFY Productions as well, another classic case where I just wish I'd maybe run through things with him before we got started, so that bless him, he had an opportunity to really talk his mind. And I felt like I took over the conversation at times when I shouldn't have done. But that happens in all my everyday life as well. I often have to take over the conversation because people think, oh, well, Lorne's now leading. And I don't like leading, I like listening. But it's hard, because I struggle to interact with people at the best of times. Especially, like I said, in the lunchroom, where people are a little bit more relaxed and a bit more prone to acting like themselves rather than their professional incarnation, if you will. I get pulled up for talking a lot of shit or for just going off. But at the same time, these same motherfuckers find me funny a lot of the time. A lot of the time, they'll just kind of palm it off, but then they'll realise, actually, no, this guy's pretty funny. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just trying to speak my mind. So you can see the disparity there. These are people I know. These are people that know me, and yet the interactions can be wildly different. Take that to social media. Jesus Christ. Now you've got people that are attempting not only to propel and project an image of themselves that perhaps isn't true, perhaps is an over-embellished version of themselves, or that is overly reliant on the behaviour and desires of other people. But then there's the lack of responsibility, the lack of ability to be able to hold people accountable for the things they say or the inconsistencies in their speech. There's a lot of times on Twitter where you'll try and have a conversation with someone, and I mean a legitimate conversation, and it just devolves very quickly into a personal attack on someone else, because we can't have nice things. My discussion on art is a prime example. I will admit, I got pretty heated in that conversation. There were times where I was being spoken over, and I was fully ready to say, hey, you let me finish my point, and you're going to be sorry if you don't. But then you realise, look, sometimes conversations don't flow naturally. They don't ebb and flow the way you would like them to. That's part of the reason why you need to learn to communicate. You need to learn to listen before you can talk. And on social media, that effect is compounded because I think people feel that they have no responsibility to listen at all. Like, none. The fact that they've been willing to give you their attention and their words and their sentiments is reward enough. To then have to listen to what your retort is like a personal insult. It's like you're actually inciting them at that point. And that's tricky, because social media, the entire fabric of what social media was supposed to be built on when it was first concocted wasn't just sharing cat pictures and penises. It was to try and bridge the gaps between the people that struggled to communicate, to try and find common ground with people more than they were finding in their social lives. I mean, I speak for one. I spent endless hours on MSN Messenger attempting to make connections with people and failing miserably, because unfortunately these were the same people I'd go to school with, who I didn't have a connection with to begin with. But then social media comes along and suddenly it promises that you can meet people who are like-minded and people that will be accepting to your views and will open the door to other views. And I can honestly say that YouTube, though, not Twitter, has been more of a way of doing this than social media, Facebook and Twitter is. Because on YouTube, there's collaboration, there's back and forth, there's support, there's genuine criticism, not harsh words. So here's the advice I would have for people that have attempted, and I don't know how many of you there are that try to do this, but have attempted to make a tangible connection with people online. I would say do the YouTube thing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It comes with its own set of problems. Looking at your stats becomes maddening after a while. There are content creators that won't look at the views, they will look at the likes. There are content creators that will only look at the subs. There are content creators that will look at the algorithms and the analytics and stuff. And it can drive you mental trying to pander to this never-ending train of did they like it, why didn't they like it, why did they like it, when are they going to watch it, how much are they going to watch, and what are they going to watch. But my advice to you is to try not to get wound up by that. Try and treat YouTube, at least initially, if you can find a voice and a verve and a way to be successful, hey, fucking great. Now you've found another avenue in life that you can explore the success of. Great, good for you. But if you're just using social media as a means to actually connect with people, to attempt to get your voice out there, to try and get over your personality with people, YouTube is a great way of doing that. And I can speak for that personally. I've met some really cool people on YouTube just by interacting with them, watching their shows, them watching mine, and chatting back and forth. The reason I don't promote their channels anymore is quite simple. I don't want to patronize them by insinuating that I can pass on some part of my success to them, because all of the channels that I used to promote are now doing great. Doing as good as me, if not better. And I've given props for that, because it means that they pursued their passion to the extent of their ability. And they still do it for the love of the game. And there's nothing better than that, because it means that while you're loving it, doing what you're doing, you're also meeting people and having fun doing it. And I can honestly say it's one of the better things that I get to do in a day, to sit down and decide what I'm going to be talking about on a show or writing a joke or whatever, because I get satisfaction knowing that at some stage, some way, somehow, one of my buddies might see it and say, ha, dude, that was actually pretty funny. That was actually really cool. And even if I have to sit back and watch it, sometimes I cringe, sometimes I'm really happy with the end product, it's still nice to be able to interact that way, because it feels meaningful. It feels like an actual piece of myself, rather than some clever, witty words on a screen or some fucking gif that I found from somewhere that someone else made. It feels like a part of me. And I would hope that there are those of you out there that maybe aren't emboldened enough to do it because they're worried about the reaction or the lack of a reaction. You know, there's a saying that, a lot of people's worst fear isn't being seen, it's not being noticed at all. I understand that, but I think you need to put yourself out there in these situations before you can be noticed in the first place. And that's even if you want to be noticed. Some people need to be careful what they want to be noticed for. And for me on YouTube, it's just producing content that I can look back on and say I had a laugh doing it. But yeah, it's kind of a roundabout way of saying it. I apologize for taking so long to say it. It's hard. It's not easy. trying to sum things up on social media, especially when you don't like. Just to give you a clue for this show, this new rendition of the podcast, I decided that I was going to pinch some ideas on because I'm not very good at accepting criticism. Even more so when I think I'm doing a good thing anyway. But I think one of the things that is a fair criticism of my channel is that you never quite know what you're going to get. You never really know what you're about to watch. And with the podcast, though, I've always liked the fact that I could talk about anything that tickled my fancy. But the problem with that, though, is as well that it's a long format and people don't have time. And so I figured by splitting up the podcast into several pieces that it would afford me the opportunity to be able to not only get my points across so that people actually hear them, but it means I don't have to compromise on the format as far as recording is concerned. And to touch on making YouTube videos again, it's not easy. Some people make it look easier than it really is, but the editing process is quite laborious and the recording process isn't the most fun when you do it on your own. It's much more fun when you have compatriots and compadres to do it with you, which is why I constantly, and indeed on this episode, right now, I extend invitations to anyone that wants to come and do a podcast with me. Because it's fun. I enjoy having the conversation. I also like hearing what other people think about things. I also have fun talking to people. And I think it's interesting getting their perspectives on things. Even if they're on subjects that they don't know anything about, it's nice to be able to answer questions and hear what their thoughts are to the responses. But it's better if I get to ask them questions. I'd like to be able to quiz more people, but it's finding people that have the time and the inclination to do it. So I'm going to bring this section of the podcast to a close a little bit abruptly. Apologies if people were looking for a little bit more social media talk, but unfortunately, like I say, it's just not that kind of day today where there's a lot going off or anyone calling me an asshole on Twitter. It's a rare day indeed. So on that note, let's move on to the final part of the podcast, which is where I'm going to give some love. I might not promote these channels anymore, but I certainly don't want to forget where I came from in terms of the people around me who are producing content that I really enjoy and that I try to share and I try to get the word out about as much as I can. So I want to talk about some channels. You'll probably know these channels very well because you're probably the gits listening to this, you sexy bastards. So let's talk about a couple of channels that I want to just very quickly touch on and say, look, go and watch their shit, man. Go and watch it right now. Stop listening to this. Skip the next 15 minutes where you're going to have to listen to this particular part to be able to get the information, to be able to go and watch the videos, but that's not the point here nor there. Don't correct me. Do as I say, not as I do. This is why your mother cries. Let's start with Bash Brothers. Bash Brothers movie reviews. These guys are Croatian kick-assery motherfuckers. I love these guys to death. Such a damn shame we still haven't got a podcast together. I really wish we could do a podcast talking about movies because these guys know their shit when it comes to movies. They watch a ton of movies, they review a ton of movies, they're really into the Oscar season. I really regret that I didn't watch their shit when it came out first. I always find myself catching stuff after the fact. Classic case in point, I'm on their channel right now and I'm looking at it and the last review was 2 months ago. I remember watching the review, but I don't remember watching it straight away. So, dudes, I apologize profusely. But, two brothers, they do reviews to camera on a set that they've designed and they'll often review the movies of the time. And I've had a discussion with them on my channel comment section. They're going to be reviewing all the big movies coming out soon. They've got Shazam in the works. They've got Avengers Endgame in the works. I know that they've been watching a whole bunch of other movies, so I suspect they'll be doing reviews on those coming forward. They're just really cool dudes. Really nice guys who sit and chat and have banter between the two of them. Their chemistry is great. Yes, they've got a thick Croatian accent, but they speak English perfectly fine, so there's no excuses for you not to go and watch them. Some of their more recent reviews, let's touch on. Got Aquaman, which I haven't gotten around to seeing yet. Glass, which I haven't seen, but I understand what happens because I was nosy and curious. Creed 2, come on Creed, come on Creed. That came out, that's being... Anyone that's on YouTube right now knows that that film is being beaten to death in the adverts 2 or 3 times. If you listen to music on YouTube like I do occasionally, they've gone into full-on 2 ad overload, and I don't know why. If they put these bastards in the ads, I'd watch all the ads, but unfortunately I don't. I have to watch the advertisement for the thing that they're talking about. Pain in the ass. You got Hunter Killer, you got Venom, you got the Meg movie, Robin Hood, and Christopher Robin, the Winnie the Pooh movie, First Man, Girl in the Spider's Web, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Those are the most recent reviews, going back the last 6 months. So I'd consider it a personal favour to me if you wouldn't terribly go and watch that channel. It's a sexy channel, and I think you'll agree. Let's go to the next one. I call him Crow for short, because 2 reasons. Number one, that's his logo, and secondly, I always butcher his name whenever I attempt to say it. Cronenborg73 Making Gaming Fun, the channel. Up to 112 subscribers. You get in there, you sexy git. Bash Brothers, 38. Come on, guys. Come on now. 38. They need more subs than that. You go and sub to their goddamn channel right now. You get that 50 at least right now. I want to see that at 50 within the week. But coming back to Cronenborg73. A Let's Player. A gamer through and through. This guy lives and breathes gaming. And produces a truckload of content considering the time that the poor bastard has at his disposal. But is just a real gamer. Just a guy that sits down and says, look, check me out gaming for a little while. And I really enjoy his stuff. He's got a very candid nature, very subdued nature. He's not the kind of guy that just loses his shit every 5 minutes and goes, oh my god, isn't this the craziest thing in the world? Oh my god. And he plays a lot of games that you're probably not going to be playing. So that you can at least get some exposure to some games that you might not otherwise have encountered. I think, though, what's best about him is that he doesn't cut out any stuff. He leaves it all in. He just goes. It's like watching a real gaming experience for someone that hasn't played the game. And I think there's something wholesome and really good about that, because I think there's always the temptation as content creators to make us look way cooler than we are, way better than we are, way more intelligent and good and sexy with our long penises and things of that nature. But this guy just leaves it all. Just leaves it all in there and says, look, this is the experience I had. Here's what I think. Here's what I think you should think. Some of the more recent videos, he's got the Stalin Subway, Red Veil. He's got Euro Truck Simulator, the part 8 of his Let's Play. He's got Let's Play with Sherlock Holmes and the Silver Earring. Although I think, is earring spelt with 2 R's? I may have just doubted you there, Crow. I want to double check that. If not, I owe you an apology and a beer for misspelling earring all these years. You've got Operation Matriarchy. You've got Battlefield 4. You've got Postmortem, Siberia, Past Cure. So you've got not even the same type of game twice in the last 8 videos. So if you want a good exposure to a bunch of different games across a bunch of different genres, then Cronenborg is the guy you need to go see. So please go and give him a check out. Moving on. GFY, Craig, my boy. Good, close, personal friend. Purely platonic, I assure you. This is a guy that just talks whatever. He's more... I want to say he's more in line with me, but he's crazy. He just talks about whatever tickles his fancy. And I mean whatever tickles his fancy. At least I try to moderate what I talk about to try and at least sound sane, despite the fact that my sanity checked its coat at the door a long time ago. This guy just makes whatever comes to his mind. And I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't always hit with me. But I love the fact that this guy makes that stuff the way he does. He just goes crazy. The best example I can give you is his more recent video, YouTube Sucks Sometimes. And he just lets YouTube have it. It's great. I really enjoyed watching it. It's a very short video, only 2.5 minutes, so anyone's got time to watch it. But he just lets them have it. He just says, hey, YouTube, you suck, man. You're picking on smaller channels. What about the creators that just want to get into it for the love of the game? You're holding off content and avenues of content for those of us that want to be able to do live streams off of our iPads and our iPhones and things of that nature. But we don't quote-unquote qualify because listen, bitch, Facebook lets us do that. Twitter lets us do that. Why aren't you letting us do that? I loved that. I love the veracity of his argument there, because I can't really argue with it. And he didn't use any fancy words, and he didn't use any examples like I fucking sometimes do. He just let you know straight up, this is bullshit. Sort it out. Because there's creators that want to be able to create on their own volition, not just to try and get a paycheck. And we should be allowed the same tools and access as you. But let's go through some more of his videos, because I want to give him some full exposure. He's got a short rant about Batman. Guy loves music, by the way. Talks about music a lot, listens to music a lot, and I love when he does his music talks, because he's got a real chilled vibe to him. Really likes listening to his music, and it's nice watching him listen to his music and describe how he's feeling and what the song is and what it means to him, and a bit of background of the band and the song itself. It's cool. It's a chilled vibe, And I love it when he does live streams as well. I hope he does more live streams. GFY, if you're listening, do more live streams. I've got to watch him live, brother. So, GFY, what a guy. Lovely, lovely, lovely fella. Finally, the one you probably heard me banging on about the most. He's been referenced a million times in this review. See, I get so caught up in saying review these days because I've just been writing reviews constantly and top fives and all the rest of this shit. Podcasts have taken a bit of a back step, even so that I don't call them podcasts anymore. Defunct Games. Cyril Lachelle. Captain of all that I say along. I don't really know what else to say at this point. I've plugged his channel a bunch of times on my channel. For what reason, I don't know, considering that his channel dwarfs mine several times over. And in fact, he's actually a big shout. Anyone that's listening to this podcast right now who's subscribed as a result of his channel, I want to personally say thank you. I also want to personally apologize in advance for the lack of quality of content you're about to experience. Overall, in terms of the production value and indeed the research, because you're used to Cyril, and Cyril is perhaps one of the more learned individuals when it comes to content on the planet that I've ever met in terms of movies, music, gaming, you name it. The guy probably knows something about it, which makes him infuriatingly hard to debate against, but not impossible if you bring a degree of ignorance like I bring in spades. I've been on his channel a few times now. In fact, the videos as they sit right now, there are 4 of them. I appear in at least one of them, which is why you should go watch that one in particular. It may also be why it's rated the lowest, but there you go. What are you gonna do? You buy lawn, you get lawn, I guess. He focuses more on a lot of gaming related topics that range from the informative to the intriguing. The Game Awards that I was a member of, the Electronic Gaming Monthly Awards, was this fictitious gaming award ceremony that he would present that was based on the awards of the same name from the magazine that was printed years earlier, except for he gave it life, he gave it a face. And then you've got the Game Over episodes, which literally details how games are over in terms of how the game progresses in terms of its story and how it finishes, and shows you in his more recent episode, Earthworm Jim, which I actually played back in the day. I actually remember this game. It was on the PC though. It wasn't Sega or anything like that. It was on a PC version that I played. I remember the ending. It was a trip watching it and sort of seeing something that I hadn't seen in the better part of 20 years. Nearly 25 years, as a matter of fact. A long time ago. So the fact that you get to go back, it's kind of like what I envisaged Halcyon to begin with. This is why it's a trip. Working with him and interacting with him is that he's got it. He understands the kind of content that I think more people on YouTube should not only be doing, but appreciating at the very least. He's a careful, considered individual who makes content of the highest quality. He's seeking out topics that no one else is talking about, but giving it life and giving it relevance. And more to the point, he's spreading the love. He's one of the most positive people that I've ever met, and one of the most generous people with his time, and indeed one of the more balanced and indeed easier people to approach when it comes to gaming. He gave me some great advice over the course of the years. I continue to give him bad advice, and I continue trying to sabotage myself despite his insistence on not doing it. I'm trying not to sabotage myself going forward. One of the ideas that led to that is leading to this podcast, so I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to him again, but also to say to anyone listening to this podcast who's not currently subscribed to Defunct Games to get your motherfucking asses over there and subscribe right now. His channel is unreal. You will not regret it. So, with that note, now that we've covered all the love, and we've covered all the sport, and we've covered all the gaming, and we've covered all the social media, it's time to wrap up this edition of the Halcyon show to a close. So I want to take a second to say thank you very much for listening. I want to say thank you for watching any of my previous content. If you've checked out some of my other videos recently, again, any new subscribers, I want to say thank you. I want to say really appreciate you taking the time to subscribe and leave comments and things of that nature. I will warn you, I'm rubbish at replying to comments. I'm trying to get better. The trouble is, I work hard, I come in, I sit down, I want to make some content, but I do want to, and that takes a lot out of me, so I do want to get back to comments. So literally as I finish recording this and set the video to render, I'm going to be going through the comments and I'm going to be replying to people. Let's just take a very quick second actually to see if we can't find out, because the problem that you won't know if you're not a YouTuber is that the beta studio, if you want to call it that, why they call it that I don't know. Such a dumb name. It limits some of the functionality. So going back to the original version of the studio, the original dashboard, allows you, it's just, I prefer it. It's just so much easier. You see immediately watch time, views, subscribers, estimated value, subscribers, views, all the more recent videos. It also allows you to click community, and it also allows you to click on subscribers. So I can see who's been, and I don't check this very often, so let's have a look. Some more recent subscribers. So look, so we've got King Harkinian. I don't remember him. Philia loves Squiggly. Philia I've had some interactions with on Defunct Gaming's channel. Sean P. Sean P I've had some interactions with on some of my videos recently. He's taken the time to watch some, I think my top 5 list recently on gaming. First person shooters to make you feel like a badass. Actually really good discussion with him. This guy sounds like he knows a lot of his shit, so it's going to be interesting talking to him, getting some perspective on that. Cyberpunk Nut, again another Defunct Gaming cohort. I'm going to include him on this because I see him in damn near all the comment sections, and I've interacted with this guy a lot, and again seems to really know his shit. I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by the knowledge on display by these guys, but I'm going to do my best by playing a SNES that's 30 years out of date to try and catch up with the knowledge. I think that'll work. I think that's a similar level of experience there. I've also got a new one here by the name of My RSVP Videos. I hope that's not a bot, but you never know. But to all those people, I want to say thank you very much for subscribing. I hope that you're staying tuned. I hope that you'll like, share, subscribe. Check out some of the other content that I've produced recently. As opposed to normal, I'm going to say go and check out some of the other content creators that I've included in the description below. They deserve your love and appreciation. And in the meantime, as always, please, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Halcyon Show.